So I was asked to talk about what we do with the eye trace, and so I just tell you what we do before we implant premium lenses. As you can see, there is no financial interest, unfortunately, none. So I just tell you what we do and how we do it, and if you have suggestions to make it better.
Can you please explain what Paulus Clinic is? Where you?
Oh, okay. So Paulus Clinic here is, I would say it's the biggest privately owned eye clinic in Switzerland, and I think we are as well #1 for all the special cases in cataract surgery, but we do the whole range of ophthalmology, so from retina to the cornea, everything.
How many places? How many?
We have 14 branches, I think, which 4 are surgical centers, which I place in Aarau.
And how many eye traces?
How many?
Eye traces.
Eye traces, we have 4.
Oh, another 10.
The only would like to know that we have 4, and to be honest, just for this segment here, the premium lenses, well, I got mine a bit more 2 years ago, and I can't think to do it without the eye trace, and that's the truth. So it's not just because I'm here, but it's really, I think, it added quite a bit to our results. And as you can see, we have in the last 5 years, so roughly we implanted somewhere between 1,700 to 2,000 premium IOLs. And this consists from multifocal torics, of multifocal torics combination, and we do also the macula add-on lenses, the piggyback lens, for in low vision patient, and we do, if necessary, some add-ons, toric or multifocal. But today I concentrate on the 2 top, the focals and torics, and I show you just what I do with my patients before we make the decision we put in the lens, a multifocal or a toric or a combination. So apart from the devices you need for your biometry, step 1 is you have to know your lenses. You need to know the pros and cons of your lenses, and the positive side and the negative side. And if we're talking about multifocals, they're basically, in my opinion, there are 2 different kinds of lenses: the diffractive lens and the refractive lens. So there are 2 different optical concepts with positive and negative sides. With the diffractive lens, you have, in my opinion, better near vision after the surgery comparison to the refractive lens. But the downside is what you see here. Those are pictures we did with the simulation program, where the patient sits in front of the screen, and we tell them he should use the regulator to show us what he sees at night when he is driving. And this is a typical picture of someone who has a diffractive lens. In this case, it was the Alcon Panoptics. And as I said, I don't have any interest in all the products or names I tell you tonight. And this is a refractive lens. This is the Oculentis MF30, which is a segmented refractive lens, and I think it's quite obvious. Halo, glare, it's not much an issue as it is here. And the downside of this lens is probably that the reading performance is slightly lower than with any diffractive lenses, but you don't have any dysphotopsia, or much less. And in case they can't read small print, you just provide them with a +1 or +1.5 reading glasses, and the problem is solved. So that makes the patient management quite easy. In comparison, if you have this, you can't much do about it. Just hope it goes away. If it doesn't, bad luck. So that's the reason why a few years ago, we changed from the diffractive lenses mainly to the refractive oculentis lenses, and up to date, we're really happy with it. So this is step 1, what you have to decide which lens or which fits best into your practice and what you like, but as well, really important, you probably should ask your patient what he is like, and how his life looks like, and what his habits, hobbies, jobs, and so on. And then you can probably fit the positive sides of a lens with the needs, what your patient would like to do after the surgery. And so you can balance or use the lens that fits best. So what we always ask, it's only 4 questions, but we ask quite a lot. What I always wanted to know is how much they drive at night, just because this halo story and starburst. So if they drive quite often, we more or less always use a refractive lens. For near work, it depends. And working on a computer, we changing the ad, so we go for a low ad with the ocular lens 15, and so on. If someone wears contact lenses, current or in the past, we also ask them if they have any experience in multifocal contact lenses, then we already get an idea if he manages with the simultaneous pictures which those lenses provide. So in the biometry process, in my opinion, there are 2 things we have to consider: is the anatomical structure of the eye, and then the more visual related things, the visual function I call it, which we have to look at closely. So what we do, if you use premium lenses, or if you use the term premium lenses, you obviously need to do a premium biometry at the beginning. If your measurement is not good or not as it should, then your results won't be. So our main devices we use currently is the IOL Master, the Galilei G6, and the iTrace. That's the ones. So we are quite well, our equipment is quite up to date, and we have several others, but those are the main thing we use. Before I start with all the measurements I do, if patients pop in and for other reasons, for other ophthalmology problems, and they probably just ask, oh, what do you think, would it be possible to have one of those multifocal lenses? Or I often use the Tracy as a quick screening exam, so just do one Tracy exam, look at the high order aberrations, and look at pupil size, and then I look at the corneal function of the MTF curve from the cornea. If this is sufficiently enough, then it looks like possible. So, but then we have to do all the other things and measurements. But just as a quick screening, it takes, I mean, if you're familiar with the iTrace, the measurement takes you 30 seconds each eye, and then just those 2 pictures and you're done. So in the biometry clinic then, if they come, as you see, we use all our devices. So we use for axial lens the IOL Master and the Galilei, just because probability, statistics, one measurement is non-measurement. So we repeated all the measurements. That is an example, just to make sure we don't have any measurement error. So that's the same patient, so 22.5, 22.8, same patient on the other eye is completely the opposite. So something's wrong. If you don't do your measurements several times with different machines, you don't know which is right. So we repeat it, and then we get the right numbers, and then we are sure that we know what we have in front of us. With the topography, we use as well the iTrace and the Galilei. And the Galilei, because it's a placebo disc dual Scheimpflug machine, he also gives you quite a nice picture of the posterior cornea. And so we do a full setup for the cornea that we are sure this is a regular cornea, not in any keratocorneal active problems. And then we use the readings, and we always work with millimeter scales, not diopters, because what we actually measure, or what we measure with the topography, is a curvature, and the curvature is a radius, and the radius, the scale, is a millimeter scale. So we use millimeter scale so that we are not prone to make any mistakes with the indices. So that's just how we do it. If you have a better idea, just let me know. And what we also have from the topography is angle kappa, which we have the Galilei gives you the number down here, and it's the difference between the pupil, the center of the pupil and the line of sight. So this is this little cross in the Galilei, and with the iTrace you have this view. For kappa angle, we prefer, or I prefer the eye trace, just because during the measurement process I can see the eye, so I'm fully under control and I'm sure the patient looks at the target he should. Whereas with the Galilei, during the measurement you see just the Galilei logo and you don't see the eye. So even though they correlate quite well the results, I trust, in case they are different, I trust the eye trace a bit more. And in our opinion, angle kappa is a really important issue. So what we do, because we use this segmented lens quite often, we implant and rotate the lens according to the kappa information. So here, this is an old orb scan image. So before we had the Galilei, we used the orb scan, but now we move to the Galilei. So if you have your kappa here, and you would implant a lens just as your gut feeling tells you with the near segment inferior, like a bifocal glasses, then you probably have more of this unwanted stray light and starburst, because in theory, if it's correct or not is another question. The patient looks right at the angle where the transition zone is. So what we do then, we rotate the lens and implant it with the near segment somewhere else. And with this lens, with the segmented lens, it's quite nice because you can't do it. So you have the choice where you place. Whereas if you use a diffractive lens with these ring segments, you can't. A ring, how you place the lens is still a ring, it doesn't matter. And just 2017, I think it's in the last Journal of Refractive and Cataract Surgery, they provided as well that if angle kappa is greater than 0.3 millimeters, you have more halos and glare with diffractive lenses. So it's probably then better to use a refractive lens. And we use those lenses up to an angle kappa of 0.5 millimeters. If angle kappa is greater than 0.5, we're probably a bit restricted. And we'll say, oh, probably could be difficult. And I analyzed that those are the numbers from our first 380 cases, so 4 years ago. And you see the majority is inferior, but I have to admit, 4 years ago we weren't aware that angle kappa probably is as important as it is today. So my gut feeling tells me when we analyze all the new cases, there is no longer 80% inferior. There are quite a lot of nasal and temporal. But I think the results we got is reflected in this technique. It needs a bit more time to think about it beforehand, but for our surgeons or the surgeon I'm working with, they tell me if I put the lens in nasal, the near segment nasally or inferior, doesn't matter. I just put it in. So for the objective measurements, pupil size as well, there's a little summary. In our opinion, pupil size should be a minimum of 2.7, 2.8 millimeters under photopic conditions. If you get smaller with the refractive lenses, then probably you can't have the full benefit of those lenses, because just the pupil area is too small for the light to go through the near and through the distant segment. And then in combination, probably with a large angle kappa, either of the segments is even smaller. And pupil shouldn't be bigger than 6 millimeter, obviously, because the optic zone of most lenses are 6 millimeter. If you have young patients with really large mesoptic pupil sizes, it's for us a contraindication for multifocal, because dystopsia and any strange light sensation at night will be almost for sure. So then we go for a monofocal or a toric lens, but no multifocal.
How large pupil size?
Greater than 6, because all the lenses we're using have a pupil size from 6 millimeters. So after 6, we go for monofocal.
So if it would be smaller than 6, then you would have a problem to see the different segments after multifocal.
No, smaller than 6 is not an issue. Smaller than 6 is fine, but greater than 6,
okay,
because then at night they will have problems.
they have all of
Yes.
In 4 weeks, you can use a 7 millimeter lens.
Okay, in 4 weeks, 7 millimeter lenses. That would be good. So then regular topography, high order aberration less than 250 microns. That's just our, I think, below 250 we don't have any issues. Small to moderate kappa, and the data should be consistent. That's why we do the effort to measure or re-measure the patients on different days, just to make sure we're hitting the target. Then the subjective measures we take is as well, first of all, when they come in, we would like to know what they see, and as well to make sure after the surgery they see better than they saw before the surgery. That's goal number 1. But here it's as well, you get quite a lot of information about the patient's habit. For example, all the minus people, the myopic people, if he comes in still a decent visual acuity, but he always removes his lenses for reading because he's -4, you can tell them already, or right at the beginning, even with a multifocal lens, your reading won't be that good after surgery. And so he has to understand that. If you don't tell him, you will probably have an unhappy patient afterwards. So these things you have to discuss with them. Then if acuity is reduced, probably because of the cataract, we do this Moray fringe, this bit here, just to estimate how much he is probably able to see. And that we can estimate, does it make any sense to put in a multifocal lens, or should we go on the really safe side and just use a monofocal lens? Contrast sensitivity and all the things we look at, if severely low, then we won't do multifocal lens, but this is just the case in clear lens extraction, because with a dense cataract, your low contrast sensitivity will be reduced anyway. And then we do this eye dominance test. That's just when we use a mix and match lenses, so different ads on different eyes. So we look which one is the preferred eye for distance and which one is the preferred eye for near. Even though there is no study, or if you look at the studies who measure eye dominance, there is no real eye dominance which you can measure with this easy test. But with this hole in the card test, you get at least 80% gives you an answer, right or left. And then we test it as well with a plus lens or plus 1.5 lens in front of one eye, just to make sure we can do that. And if acuity preoperatively is still good enough, we often make a little test with multifocal soft contact lenses, just to make sure that they can cope with the simultaneous image. And as well, it's quite a nice test with these multifocal lenses. The near ad, or the near acuity, is usually somewhere between 0.04 and 0.05 in presbyopic people, and you can tell them this is how it will be after the surgery. So if 0.4, that's enough for reading a newspaper. If he tells you this is not enough, then you say, oh, then probably it's the wrong lens. Usually it's after surgery it's better than 0.4, but it's better to tell them a bit the worst case that can happen. It's only 0.4 for near. If he doesn't like it, then probably that's the wrong lens for this patient. So just to make sure he doesn't expect to see how it was when he was 20 and full accommodated. But because that's quite often the wishes from the patient is they come in and they think they will walk out and they are 40 years younger. And then you have to tell them, look, it's only the lens we put in, the rest of the eye is still 70. It's not magic, it's just optics. But I think with this one, we make quite good experiences, and as well for as a patient, then you probably get an idea how it could be. And the contrast is a bit low, and you know, oh yes, work. It's not the usual multifocal or progressive lenses where you have to target where you look through your glasses, because with the lenses you can just look near, far, and that's it. So in our practice or in our clinic, usually our standard, so it developed over the last year, is we do some kind of mix and match. We do one eye with an add of 2.0 and the other eye with a higher eye of 3.0. That's a standard way. If someone is reading a lot, then we do binocular MF30, and if it really reading is his main hobby and he doesn't drive, or at least not much, then we do probably a diffractive lensing, a visual, for example, or we use the MF30X. And if driving, if he's a professional driver, for example, and or does lots of computer, we go most of the time with the MF15, but then we tell them he definitely needs reading glasses after surgery. It's just the MF15 in our, or how I word it, is a lens which is for the distance, and we added a little bit in the near. So it's actually a distance lens with a plus. So because here for professional driver, for example, we don't want to have any dysphotopsia, and he probably that he can't drive anymore. But all mixers are possible, so this is just what we mostly use. But even we did MF15 on one eye and then MF30 on the other eye and so on. So we really use all the opportunities we have. And another thing is, if you have great devices, it's not only for preoperative measurements, it's also quite nice if you have a good result. You know, patient is already happy because his vision is fine. Then you can show him a picture, and the picture is worth 1,000 words. So this one here, this was from last week. She has only one eye. She lost the other eye during an accident. We put in a toric lens. So with someone who has only one eye, we don't use multifocal lenses. We only use torics. So, and then after surgery, she has quite a nice VA, and then we can show it. Look, we're really hitting the axis. So no change, rotation, nothing. So 0, 0. This was done by Dr. Kinokopoulos, or he was the surgeon. And then you can use your device as well as a bit of a marketing devices and so on. Look, we did a great job, and they can understand why they actually look that great. So that's how we do it before we do surgery. And if you like, I have with me 2 cases, which the eye trace actually helped us a lot. And so we had a man coming in, age 73, and we were his 4th opinion. So he did the cataract surgery a few years ago, 2016, and he wasn't just happy. He wasn't happy even though he reached 20/20 vision with glasses. Without glasses, 0.5 at 20/40. But he wasn't happy. And so we can go. We don't know what to do, but his hobby was, he told me then, you know, he builds these model airplanes, and then he go out and flies around and look at the sky and the airplane, and then he has some ghost images, and he sees the vertical line slightly double, and that is mainly during his hobby. And he is retired, so probably all the day he plays with his airplanes. So we think, oh well, from an ophthalmology point, everything was perfect eye. We did an eye trace. Just we looked at that matches his glasses, slightly higher operation. And then he has some tree foils and things. And this was with undilated pupil. You see, this was just a 2.2 scan. Also, we did dilate and see what's happened. And this is after dilation. You see, that's a 4mm scan. And then you have all these bars here. And they go, but something is going on. And with the slit lamp, we haven't seen anything. So for us, with the slit lamp, when we looked undilated, the lens was clear. And yeah, capsulotomy was already done before that. So for us, it was a little bit of surprise. But if you look at the next picture, also done with Tracy, you see it's obvious why he probably has some problem. You see all this phimosis and stuff around here, but the hole is roughly 3 millimeters. That's why with undilated pupil you can't see it, and if you go in with slit lamp as well, pupil can't see it, you won't see anything. It's just a clear lens. And then we talk that we decided with Professor Meyer, that's the surgeon I work most with, what we should do, and then he decided he will remove from the anterior and the posterior surface all this stuff, and then we have a look. And he was quite, this is a 2020 eye, so he wasn't, shall we or shall we not? So at the end he did, and if you look at the eye trace after the surgery, well, that's just internal, because we haven't done anything on the cornea, but all the aberrations are mainly gone, just to a normal level. And as well, his main complaint is gone, so he's flying now his airplane. He's really happy. And because we were the number 4 opinion, so all the other clinics told him, oh, everything is fine, which we did as well at the beginning. We said, oh, 20/20 vision, lens is clear, come on, that's fine, just get used to it. But actually it wasn't. And that's why a case where the eye trace helped us quite a lot. And in the meanwhile, this patient brought back some other patients that we can do some other work on them. This one, another one, this is clear. You don't need an eye trace to detect this hypermature cataract. And he was quite young, and it's only unilateral, so just one eye. The other eye is a 20/20 eye, and in the history there is no trauma, no drug induced. We don't know why, but he has this dense cataract, only light perception. We couldn't do any axial length measurement, only with contract ultrasound. Ophthalmoscopy, OCT wasn't possible. We didn't came through the lens. So, and he is young. The other eye is 20/20. So he came and said, oh, but I would like to have a multifocal lens. We say, oh, with the ultrasound measurement, and we don't know how the retina looks like, what shall we do? Shall we just use the measurement from the good eye and fit in, then use the axial length and do the surgery based on those information? And if we don't nail the target, we do a laser surgery, a refractive surgery. So, but we decided to do another way, and that's the eye traces clearly looking down. So what we did is we did just the lens extraction. Professor Meyer just performed the lens extraction. Then 3 days after surgery, we did the first eye trace measurement, and then another 4 days later, we repeated all the axial length measurements. We looked at the retina, we did the OCT scan, everything, and so oh, this eye is perfect. Based on that, he implanted Oculentis MF20 multifocal, and he had then 1.2 in decimals distance vision unaided, and in near is 50.5. So he's quite happy. He's quite tall, so we used the MF20 because he has long arms. So he's reading probably for me. It would be reading here for him is standard distance. And the nice thing is, this was a talk as well today at the Oculentis meeting from Professor Hoon. With the eye trace, you can use. The problem is always the objective refraction. With any multifocal lens, it doesn't work. It gives you wrong numbers, just whatever comes up, it pops up on the screen, and even if you do a great job, it tells you +2, -4 in an axis. And with the eye trace, you have the opportunity to do a 1 mm scan, and here in this case, here you see the line, basically the reflex where the transition zone is, so I highlighted here red. So what I did is I used the 1 mm scan, make a measurement in the distance portion, and I make a measurement in the near portion, and then you have quite a nice still not 100% correct. We have to say you're measuring because you are off center, you get some astigmatism as well, but it gives you an idea objectively how good your refraction target is. And so that's another issue where you, after cataract surgery, you can use your IHS quite well. And here you see the result, 0.02 aorta operation. So he was really happy after dispensed cataract. You know, it was almost in the life of it. So that's what I have to say. I hope it was some of it was interesting for you, and that's just, as I said, how we do it. If you have a better way to do it, please let me know, because we try to get better. And as well, now with this almost 2,000 lenses we implanted in the last 4 or 5 years, we see our learning curve as well. So right at the beginning, the cases, they were fine, but now they are more or less superb, I would say. But we learned our lessons, and even though we have quite a lot of equipment, and as we started, we only had the IOL master and the Loertscher. Now we probably every second year we add another device and another device, and so far you need that to do premium lenses. You need premium biometry, and for us the eye trace is a device which we won't miss anymore. So even though you get overwhelmed with the first measurement, you get all these numbers and say, "Yo, well, what shall I do?" But over time you get used to it, and so it's quite a nice device. And I see no financial interest. I can really recommend it to, if you don't have one, buy one. So that's for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.